You were born. It was the most important day of your life. Your entire existence began in that moment. Your brain fired up, your lungs filled with air, and every sensation flooded in all at once. But you remember none of it. Not the light, not the cold, not the first face you ever saw. You have no memory of the single most significant event you will ever experience, and that's not an accident. Your brain made sure of it, because if you could remember being born, you might not have survived what came next. This is called childhood amnesia. It's not a disorder, it's not trauma, it's a feature, not a bug, and it happens to every human being on Earth. You can't recall anything before the age of 2 or 3, and your memories before age 7 are hazy at best. For decades, scientists assumed this was simply because baby brains weren't developed enough to form memories, but that explanation had a problem. Babies can learn. They recognize faces, they respond to voices, they even remember routines and patterns. So the equipment is there, the neurons are firing, yet somehow none of it gets saved. In the 1980s, psychologist Carolyn Rovi Collier ran a simple experiment. She tied a ribbon from a mobile to a baby's ankle. When the baby kicked, the mobile moved. Within minutes, the baby learned the connection and kicked more often. A week later, the same baby was placed back in the crib. The moment they saw the mobile, they started kicking. The memory was there. It was intact. But if you asked that same person 20 years later if they remembered kicking a mobile as an infant, they'd have no idea what you were talking about. The memory existed. Then it vanished. So where did it go? For a long time, researchers believed the problem was the hippocampus. That's the part of your brain responsible for encoding long-term memories. In infants, it's still under construction. The neurons are growing, new cells are being born at a furious rate, and the whole system is unstable. Neurologist Patricia Bauer compared it to building a library while the walls are still being painted. You can place books on shelves, but if the shelves aren't bolted down, everything falls. In 2014, neuroscientist Paul Franklin tested this directly. He took infant mice and taught them to fear a specific sound. The mice learned, they remembered. But within weeks, the memory disappeared. Then Franklin did something radical. He slowed down the growth of new neurons in their hippocampus. Suddenly, the infant mice retained their memories far longer. The problem wasn't that the baby brain couldn't store memories. It was that it was growing too fast. Every time a new neuron was born, it scrambled the filing system. Your earliest memories weren't erased, they were overwritten by your own development. But that's only part of the answer. Because even if your hippocampus had been fully mature at birth, you still wouldn't remember being born. And the reason has to do with the way your brain decides what matters. Memory isn't a camera. It doesn't record everything. It records meaning. And meaning requires context. It requires language, narrative, a sense of self. When you remember something, you're not pulling up a video file. You're reconstructing a story. You need a protagonist. That protagonist is you. But when you were born, you didn't have a you yet. Psychologist Catherine Nelson studied how children begin to form autobiographical memory. She found that it doesn't happen until they can talk about themselves in the past tense. Until they understand that the person who existed yesterday is the same person who exists today. That concept doesn't emerge until around age 2, and it doesn't solidify until age 4 or 5. Before that, you experience the world, but you don't experience it as a continuous self moving through time. You're aware, but you're not aware that you're aware. And without that frame, memory has nothing to anchor to. There's another layer. Culture shapes when your memories begin. Researcher Chi Wang found that children raised in Western cultures where parents frequently ask, "Do you remember when you did this?" and encourage storytelling about personal experiences, tend to have earlier first memories around age 3.5. Children raised in East Asian cultures where the focus is more on group harmony and less on individual narrative often don't recall anything before age 4 or 5. Your first memory isn't just biological, it's social. It's built through conversation. Someone has to teach you how to remember your own life. So you were born into a world you couldn't file away, your senses worked, your neurons fired. But there was no librarian, no storyteller, no sense of yesterday and today being part of the same thread. And while your brain was still building the scaffolding to hold those stories, it was also doing something else. It was learning everything: language, movement, faces,